It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. What separates organizations that thrive for decades from those that stay small often comes down to how leaders think about growth, technology, and decision-making. Today's guest, Nicolas Darveau-Garneau, has been at the center of the biggest digital transformation shaping business as we know it. He joins us to talk about what top companies do differently, how leaders can avoid the hidden traps and limit growth, and what it really takes to build organizations designed to thrive in the age of AI. Nick is the former chief evangelist at Google, a founding member of MSN.com, and a serial entrepreneur. He's the author of the book, Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai, The 7 Growth Secrets of the World's Most Successful Companies. Welcome, Nick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Joan. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
So, Nick, I love that you're on the show because your resume is quite impressive. How did you get started in digital technology?
Well, when I was younger and I was looking for a career, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden, in 1995 or so, I discovered the internet. And it was just love at first sight. I just thought that this could change the world. It could have many positive applications to bring people closer together and to help the poorest among us get better educated and have better access to information. So since then, and this was 1995 or so, I dedicated my entire career to everything technology to hopefully, make a better world. And some of it has come true, but unfortunately, some of the technology has also had some negative implications. So it's not been always perfect, but it's been a career that I've been really proud of.
It's funny because when I was in college back in the early to mid 80s, and I remember sitting in a communication class, and our professor said one day we would be able to go on our computer and go shopping and pay bills, and everyone sat there and said, oh yeah, right. We laughed at him. When you got involved in this, did you really have an understanding of where it could go and the type of scope that you were investing in at that point?
Once I saw the ability for, anybody in the world to post something on a website or a social network and have the whole world see it, I thought I had a glimpse of where things could go. So, the shopping, the paying the bills, all of that, the ability to communicate seemed that something was going to happen. But I've still been really surprised by some of the good and some of the bad that's happened. The ability to do a video conference with somebody, halfway across the earth for free was not obvious that it would be, so inexpensive to do. And then all of this AI stuff that's been happening in the last, 2 years where a computer is winning prizes for the best photography in the world or creating videos on its own. I mean, I never saw that one coming.
Well, when you were working at Google during such a high growth period, what was that like and what did a chief evangelist do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Google has, it's been, to me, like the highlight of my career. I mean, I started 4 companies and it was great, but Google is an extraordinary place. Internally, right, is a great culture. People are really thoughtful. But the best part for me was the fact that Google was able to attract the best companies around the world to come see us. So as chief evangelist, I would be in Mountain View, California, and every day I would typically meet 2 or 3, CEOs from some of the best companies in the world. So just, waking up in the morning knowing you're going to meet extraordinary people and learn a lot from them was a real thrill. And so that's what the book is about. Like Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai is about the more than 1,000 CEOs I met and what I learned from these amazing, amazing people.
I've met so many entrepreneurs that are petrified of technology at this point. And, we're talking about where we're heading with AI, but what do you say to a small business owner who doesn't want any part of technology? Are they going to be able to survive?
It's certainly possible, right? Some companies, still do well if they don't fully embrace technology, but I think it's a missed opportunity, right? I mean, you can create such an amazing customer experience with technology. So if you think of the customer first, right, you can do some pretty extraordinary things and really delight them and have them come back. You can be more, effective, and you can grow faster. So my advice to somebody who's struggling with AI or with kind of technology is just do one thing that you're comfortable with, right? Nothing spectacular, nothing dangerous, nothing that can have any kind of ethical, implications. Just pick one thing, like whether it's, your 10 employees doing their expenses using AI, for example, and just the employees love it. Or it's one small thing that you give to your customers, a tool that they don't have today that can make their lives better. So start small and then keep an open mind, and hopefully the first thing you do will have a really positive impact on you and your customers and your employees, and then hopefully you'll get the bug and want to keep going.
Mm-hmm. What do you think a lot of business owners and managers get wrong? What do the top companies do differently?
Yeah, the book has 7 different principles that the top 10% companies do very differently than others. And the first one is very surprising. I would, sit in these meetings with executives and their teams, and the executives would typically say, look, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to improve our profitability. We're trying to grow faster. We're trying to delight our customers. We're trying to build a more trustworthy company and a more trustworthy brand. Now, how can Google help us do that? And then when I dug into what the more junior folks were doing, whether it's in marketing or product development or customer service, nobody typically would ever work on those things, right? And so if you look at what a marketing person would do, they're actually not trying to improve profits typically, right? They're trying to make their marketing investment more efficient. So I'll give you a quick example. If you look at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which is the largest and most respected children's hospital in the world, they're also, by the way, the most respected organization in the U.S. and the number one place that young people coming out of college want to work. So it's an amazing, amazing place. And so I met them about 7 years ago. They were investing, a lot of money on Google, advertising. People would see these ads and click on these ads and then go to St. Jude's website and donate, and then help St. Jude's, therefore, be able to help more children. And by the way, for those who don't know, if a child goes to St. Jude's because they had cancer, obviously their treatment is free, but the family can also go to Memphis, Tennessee, and St. Jude's will pay for all of the costs, the airfare, the hotel, the meals, everything. And then the child has free treatment with St. Jude's for life, mm-hmm. right? And so that's been an amazing achievement, and St. Jude's has helped improve the survival rate of childhood cancer from 20% to 80%. So really amazing place. And so I met them, and they were, investing a lot of money on Google. They were, at that point, raising more than $1 billion a year, and most of that coming from small donors who go online and donate, $50 to $75 or something like that. And so when I was asking them how they thought of their marketing strategy, they would say something like, well, look, as long as we invest $1 with Google and we see $3 or $4 or $5 of donations, we're obviously, it's positive, and we're raising more money to help children. So we'll keep doing this, which is very logical, right? You put $1 into a machine and $3 or $4 comes out. And so it's like a money printing machine. You should keep doing it. But I didn't think that was the right strategy, actually, surprisingly. Mm-hmm. I thought what they should do is try to maximize the donations they get minus how much they invest with Google. Like, who cares if you get a 4-to-1 ratio or 5-to-1 or 2-to-1? What really matters is that you have more money at the end of the day than the minus how much money you invested. Right. So I wanted them to maximize the net donations, like how much money you have, as opposed to maximize their efficiency, which is the ratio of your investment. Long story short, by doing this and some other things they also did, within a year, they were raising 46% more money.
Right.
And within a few years, they'd gone from raising $1 billion to $2.5 billion. And so the number one mistake that entrepreneurs or large companies or nonprofits make is they're trying to be too efficient. let's just say like a bonsai thinking, right? You want to prune your branches, you want to be small, you want to be perfect. Whereas a sequoia, the idea is I want to be as big as possible. I want to be as profitable as possible. Of course, ethically, right? You want to be ethical, you want to be a good corporate citizen, but you're trying to maximize things. And so I've done this over and over again with hundreds of companies. And when you switch from this like I want to be efficient mindset to I want to grow profitably mindset, extraordinary things happen. So this is the number one thing that companies get wrong. They're just too focused on efficiency, not focused enough on being as big and as profitable as possible.
How important do you believe it is? And I don't want to say common sense or intuition, but like I founded my first company 15 years ago. I had never done it before. I didn't know anything about starting a company and growing it. And I was always of the belief that you don't leave something on the table. I think one of my assets is that I can maximize any opportunity. I just don't like to leave things on the table. Like you said, you have a different mindset. It's not about efficiency. It's about looking for opportunity and making it grow however you have to. How important is that, do you think, in growing a business? Does it have a place? And do you think, like you were saying about efficiency, people are too focused on going from A to B and they're missing a lot off to the side because of that thinking?
I think it's critical. I think historically it was certainly possible to build, a small or medium-sized business and keep it at that and be satisfied, right? And make a good, living and help, your community and help customers. But I think, within the age of AI, when companies can be built, a lot more easily, a lot more inexpensively, if you don't grow, like in the forest, like sequoias who actually don't grow, don't make it. They die because, the taller sequoias get all the light from, above the forest canopy. And then one thing that's not really understood is that sequoias are the tallest trees in the world, where they can reach 300 feet. And they grow faster as they get older because they get more light above the forest canopy. So it's really hard to be a tree, that stops growing when the growing tree is just, overshadowing you. So same thing in business, I think. I think it's going to be increasingly difficult to be, to remain small and just to be satisfied with that. I think the odds of success are going to be a lot lower. So continuing to strive, continuing to look for the next thing by delighting your customers and being as profitable as possible, I think is going to be a lot more important going forward.
You mentioned AI. Where do you see this going? When I look at certain fields, like areas that I'm involved in, writing and, graphic design and things like that, do you see AI eliminating jobs? Do you see it enhancing performance? Where are we heading?
I think it's a combination of both, and I think we have to be honest about this. I think AI is going to make the kind of lower value parts of many people's jobs less and less useful, right? I mean, to your point, like if you look at graphic design, right? And I'm a marketer by trade, so if you look at what it used to cost to create, an internet banner ad, right? When I first started out, it was $5,000 and it took a month. And now, there are systems out there where you can get, thousands of, ads designed for your company, really personalized for your company for $10 a month, right? Because of AI. So AI can create all these ads. So the actual designing of an ad, the creation of an ad is becoming more and more automated. So if that's your career is like, I'm an ad agency and I design ads and I charge $1,000, it's just not going to be a thing going forward. But where AI is going to struggle is with the ideation of these ads, the strategy, the thoughtfulness, like the real kind of creative part of it. So to me, like two things are going to happen. AI will start, taking over more and more of the kind of lower value parts of people's jobs. But the humans, people who leverage AI and are really master it, who become top 10% users of AI, are going to be so much more productive than they used to be, that they're going to be worth a lot more than today. And we're already seeing that. If you're a software engineer, you don't know AI, and it's going to be pretty hard, I think, to continue growing your career. But the ones who know AI really, really well are getting paid a lot more already. So you're going to have, I think, unfortunately, a growing kind of split between the haves and the have-nots, right? The employees who master AI will be much more successful, and the ones who don't, I think, will struggle. And I'm quite worried about this. Most companies don't do enough AI training. Most companies don't help their employees enough migrate to new careers after AI takes over the lower value parts of their jobs. And so I think it's incumbent upon companies to really change how they manage people in the age of AI.
What about on a personal level? When you see videos on social and you see someone who's supposedly making a statement or being pictured with someone else, how do we protect ourselves if we're pictured, and how do we learn to discern what is real and what is not?
I think that's also going to become harder. There's technologies that the large companies like Google are building to be able to watermark, videos or pictures or text, so that it will be obvious that it has been made by AI. So hopefully that will protect us to some extent. And I think we'll get like 90 to 95% of these deep fakes, out of circulation. They'll still be out there, but they won't be highlighted by, Facebook or Google and others. So they'll be harder to find. But, like technology is always a race between, the bad actors and the good actors. So there'll be systems out there that, nefarious people can use to try to influence society or elections or, anything you can think of. And that will be ahead of what these detection systems can do. So hopefully it won't be pervasive everywhere. We'll be quite protected from it, but I don't think we'll be fully protected. What I worry about a little more is what's going to happen to the meaning of life when AI can do a very large portion of our jobs or our creative process. I mean, you mentioned you're a writer and you're a graphic designer. And I don't think AI will fully take over those occupations. I think a graphic designer is a lot more than somebody who, takes a pen to paper. There's a lot of creativity and ideation that goes around that. But we are here today where AI is winning prizes for the best graphic designs in the world and winning prizes today for the best novels in the world, right? It's happening now. So, as a young person today that wants to, aspires to be an author or a graphic designer, going to have that opportunity, or is AI going to be so much better that we will not have any human authors anymore? So I worry about that. I worry about what we're going to do with our lives now, as AI takes over large parts of it and makes our lives easier in many ways. But are we going to become, just kind of creatures of pleasure, where we just, travel the world and eat and have fun with our friends, which I think is certainly lovely. But also, are we going to be able to have meaning and feel a higher purpose with AI, or is AI going to take over a lot of the creative things that we used to do that bring us purpose? I don't know, but I do worry about it.
No, I do as well. And one of the things I actually worry a lot about is I know people that have conversations with AI, like for therapy. And I sometimes worry if someone was struggling with a mental health issue and started to, in some way, look at this as a friend or something like that. I just think that, like you were saying, there are so many benefits, but there are so many things that we need to be aware of and be mindful, just to make sure we keep an eye on certain things.
No, I think you're right. I think every technology has always had two sides, right? If you look at social media, there's so many positive things about it, keeping in touch with your friends, making new friends, creating communities from all around the world, right? I enjoyed playing chess. I enjoy literature. I have all these, I enjoy cooking. I've got all these friends around the world that really create these wonderful communities. But, for your listeners who've read Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, social media has had a devastating impact on teenagers, especially teenage girls. And so, yes, AI will do both, right? There'll be amazing stories of AI curing disease. It's already happening. But there'll be awful stories of AI. This has also happened, right, to your point about therapy. A young person using AI for therapy, and since AI is not perfect, the AI is actually giving that person the wrong advice and causing that person some severe, mental harm. So we do have to worry about the downside a lot.
So, Nick, in the beginning, I said that you've had quite an impressive resume, but anyone who has achieved that type of success has gone through setbacks, and things haven't always turned out the way you wanted, I'm sure. And so when that happened, what do you tell yourself? How do you get your head back in the game and be resilient so that you can keep moving forward?
Yeah, what a great question, Sylvia. I started 4 companies, and one, went bankrupt. One did really well, and the other 2 did okay. And yeah, that's actually not a bad, not a bad success rate. But the 2 that did okay were a struggle, and the one that went bankrupt was a big struggle. Like 6 years of my life dedicated to something that failed miserably, and it was mostly my fault. Honestly, I just didn't do a good job, and so it really hurts your ego. It really hurts the fact that you had to let go of hundreds of people, and so it's quite emotionally devastating. And honestly, the first time it happened, it took me quite a while to fully recover. You just put one foot in front of the other, and I kind of was able to come back. But I found that the more I had failures, and some large failures and some small failures every day, right? I mean, at Google, I met 1,000 CEOs. Not all these meetings went well, right? Some meetings I would just have a terrible meeting and come back to my office and I'd be, man, that was horrible. I did a terrible job. But the more you fail, the more you get used to it. So it's actually one of the principles in the book, the 7th principle. And the first one was maximize profitability. The last one is, hey, look, in the end, the most important thing inside any organization, whether it's a company or a nonprofit, is the ability to try new things and move as quickly as possible. I believe, by the way, that this is actually the most important thing in the age of AI. If you think AI will start, kind of commoditizing, many things inside a company, right? So customer service, like even the smallest company in the world will be, able to have amazing customer service a few years from now. You'll be able to have an amazing website, 3 to 4 years from now, even if you're a small company. It used to cost millions of dollars. So assume you're competing against people and they're all amazing, right? Like their products are great, customer service is great, the website is great. So how do you stay ahead? Well, how do you stay ahead in your life? How do you stay ahead as a company? Like the only way is to have ideas, be able to test them really quickly, and be able to implement them, and then go on to the next idea. And so in life, that's what I think I learned after many years of struggling and many years of failure. It's just like if you just try one thing a year, and that one thing is a failure, then all you have is failures. But if you try 100 things and 20 things are failures, and the cost of failure becomes a lot less, right? It's only a 20% failure rate. And so the advice I give to people at the companies is just, I was talking to a friend of mine who's sold 5 companies for over $100 million, and he's the entrepreneur that I admire the most. And I asked him, like, what is your secret to your success? And he said, look, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the most aggressive, I just don't have all these qualities that, Steve Jobs would have, or, other people would have like that. But like, imagine if you play chess against the best chess player in the world, I would never win. But if I got 2 moves for every move that she has, right, I would win every time. So the reason I'm so successful is I make more moves. So that's been my mantra for a while, is just, I just try more things and not worry so much when they fail. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very different mindset than I had when I was young, where I would always be afraid of failure and wouldn't try anything until I perfected it and put all my eggs in one basket. So now my eggs are spread out. So when your eggs are spread out and you try many more things, the cost of failure gets minimized. And so that's the recommendation I would have for people, is just make more moves.
The book is Be a Sequoia, Not a Bonsai, The 7 Growth Secrets of the World's Most Successful Companies. Nick, where can our listeners go to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, you go to Amazon to get the book, leave a nice review. It really matters. It means a lot to me. And then my website is Nicolas Darveau-Garneau. And then one thing I want to mention is that the work I did with St. Jude's, I want to replicate with 5 nonprofits a year for free. And so if you work for a nonprofit and you'd like to raise more donations, go to my website, Nicolas Darveau-Garneau, and leave me a comment there, or look for me on LinkedIn. I've got 3 nonprofits already scheduled for the year, and I'm looking for 2 more.
So, Nick, in about 30 seconds or less, what would be the takeaway? What do you want to leave our listeners with?
I think, we only talked about 2 of the 7 principles. There's a lot more. The book goes through the details. But the most important thing that I noticed from the top companies in the world, which is very different from what the average company does, is that we would share an idea with them, and they would be open to it, and they would try it, right? So read the book. There's hundreds of ideas in there. Not all of them are perfect for you, but find the ones that are the most relevant, and then be open to them, right? Open your mind. The difference between the best and the average isn't technical things, isn't complicated things. They're just more open to new ideas.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Joan.
We'll be right back.